Alright, hello everybody. My name is Ryan Strong, and this is a update to my prior Milestone 7 video. If you remember from before, my prior Milestone 7 had a few things that I had done, and I will go over those real briefly so you can have an idea. So we had game save, game music, wall colliders, and leaderboards. After which, I got some really good feedback from my instructors, a few things I needed to take care of. So one being the wall colliders not working properly or maybe not having enough. So I'll be going over those. Respawning in the incorrect direction after a crash and such. We'll go over that a little bit, or I will discuss it a bit. More on the complete set of colliders around the track. Again, big thing was the colliders overall. Excuse me, sorry. And the poor braking and sharp turns mechanic, I will go over that as well. That's something else that came up. Then it was also mentioned that the leaderboards is great and all, but it's not really critical at this point, so I need to get the other stuff fixed. And there were a couple of screenshots to go along with it, so I will open those up as long as it will open them for me, just so I can show you. So the first one, someone called the Forest Service, I'm lost. It's just they tried to go off track, and they did go off track, and they kind of got lost and didn't know where to go from there. The next one, stuck between two bushes. So this is where they had most likely had a wreck on this bush that's in front of them, and when the vehicle spawned back with the player on it, it put them between this bush and the one that's right behind it, preventing them from moving forward or backwards. So I fixed that as well. And then minecart. So this is a minecart kind of towards the end of the game. It looks like they got stuck kind of on the minecart, maybe a little bit of terrain issue as well. So it's another thing I can go over. And then the last one, there's the bridge supports. This one I found really surprising because I didn't even know there was a way to get to those. But one of the other instructors, as I will show in a moment, also mentioned getting stuck on one of these. So I'll just show I fixed that. So the other instructor, they got stuck on a side of the bridge as well from respawning. So we will go over all of those. So here's my scene. So what I did for the colliders, I have to actually pull it up. So I have this thing here, wall colliders, and as you can see, I have boxes all over the place. So what I did was these cubes here, I will turn them all on, and I'll turn on their mesh render. So I went in and I set up the cubes so that they are around the track and they're at points that prevent the player from actually going into or riding up on the walls. It stops them from making progress where they shouldn't. So I did that all around the track to make it so that the player couldn't just go off and kind of ride wherever they want, with hopes that this kind of fixes that major issue that we had before. So we'll turn that back off. This is going to be a little bit shorter video because I'm showing all of those things that I did fix. The next thing I did was these bridge supports here. Let me see if I can click on one from this far away. Nope. Did I get it? I got one. Alright. So these bridge supports here, I have 4 on this, and then I have 2 on that bridge, so 6 total. What I did was I actually took out the box colliders for them. So now when the player goes, if they happen to fall and they come in contact with these beams, they're just going to fall straight through. I think that's a much better option for them, just because the players shouldn't get down there anyway, but if by chance they do, I don't want them getting stuck. So that's how I went about fixing that. That, I think, for the most... Oh, okay, so the minecarts. So I'll actually show one of the minecarts over here, because I did it with all of these minecarts. So you have this minecart here. What I did was I actually put a box collider around it. It still has the mesh collider. It's not really affecting performance, so I just kind of left it. I could probably go in and take it out later, but I just did an overall box collider because I want the player to wreck if they slam into one of these. So I did the same thing for all of the minecarts in the game, just to make it easier. And then the area where the bush incident happened, I believe to be this exact spot right here. So what I did was I took this bush here and I actually just moved it offside a bit, and I moved it back a little to give the player a little bit of wiggle room if they get between it, and that seemed to kind of help out with the area. So next thing we will go over is the stuff. Well, let me see if I can close this. It's kind of big. Random obstacles. Alright, the actual motorbike here. So the motorbike is obviously the most important aspect for this game, because it's what the player is actually utilizing to play the game. So what I did was I had to go in and adjust a few things to make it so where it turns faster, it brakes quicker, stuff like that. So one of the things I had done was this brake power. I bumped it up. I don't remember the exact number it was before, because I did this about 2 weeks back, but I bumped it up to 160, which makes it to where it actually slows down significantly quicker than it had previously. So doing that makes it to where it does come to a very quick stop compared to what it originally did. The other thing was I started to fool around with this max steer angle, max turn. I thought that those were going to be the things that I really needed to adjust to make it so that the bike could turn much sharper. Well, come to find out, those aren't at all. All those do is it makes the bike actually lean more, but the bike won't turn faster or turn anymore. It just looks like it's laying on its side basically and not turning. So what does that turning is this stiffness right here. The stiffness originally is set up to, I want to say 1 exactly, and what I did was I went in and I actually changed it to 1.5. And I will mute my sound first because I don't want to have that go off. So I'll play it real quick so I can kind of show you how that turn works. So you got the bike in here, and I'm going to come down here. I'm not going to let go of the accelerate, and you can kind of see it turns much smoother. It's got a little bit of a drag to it, like if you're doing a sharp turn. So he leans over quite a bit. It works out really well. Get around that. But yeah, the turn is much better than it was before. So I think that'll help out a lot. I might tweak it a little bit more after I get a little bit more feedback from players. But overall, I think this turn actually functions really well. It turns pretty good. You got some areas that you might want a little bit of tighter of a turn, but I don't want them to have too tight of a turn and then them be able to just turn on a dime, basically, because that's not the point of this. I want them to have the possibility of wrecking at times. So it does turn much smoother. One other thing that I will go over... Oh, slammed into that one good. That's the nice thing about the way the terrain's set up. If the bike is coming down at a weird angle, the bike will wreck, and I like that. I like how it functions. So, but we'll go to the end here, because what I did with the very end was I actually modified the credits a bit because I wanted to complete some of task or milestone 8 as well. So I will show that stuff. I have a little bit more to do with it still, but for this purpose I was advised to fix these issues before even tackling the other ones, which I think that works out much better anyway, because I need to make sure the game is running properly. So I mean, now you can't just go up and climb up any random areas and have fun around the course. So, but we'll get here, and I currently only have one score that shows up. It says first because, I mean, you're the only player playing, but what I did was, in this scene, I modified the credits. Instead of utilizing a animation that just brings it up, instead I put a transform forward on it, and I'll show that in a moment, but it just keeps on going up. And I added all of the rest of the assets that I have used in the game to this so that it actually has everything referenced properly. Any new ones that I've done recently, I made sure that those were all in there as well. So, and then you go back to the main menu. So, for some of these, let's go to, where is it? Not Minecar Move. I'm just going to go to the credit scene because that's where it's actually in. So I want to make sure that I pull up the right thing. So text, and then credits roll. That's what it's called. Where is it? There it is. So credits roll. Once it opens, I can just show you briefly what I did with that. It's very minor, but it does exactly what I need it to do, so it functions very well. So in here, for credits roll, I gave it a public float of speed. I gave it public float here because I wanted to be able to manipulate it inside the editor here, or the inspector, so I don't give it a value to start. And then I say transform.translate, give a vector 3 of up, and then times it by my speed, which is currently at 0 if you don't have anything in the inspector, and then times that by time.delta time. So in here, what I did was I gave it a speed of 30, because initially I tried 1, and 1 looked like it was a snail moving across concrete. Super slow. Then I tried 3, thinking that maybe that's why. Maybe that's just 1 is just super slow, and it didn't work. Bumped it up to 20. It was actually moving pretty good, but not as fast as I wanted. I finally settled on 30, which makes it go up pretty decent. It's still a little bit slow, but I think it fits for what I would need, especially if I was using if I had a longer one with, music. Now I do have music to this. I added it to my main camera here. It's called Stealth Full Track. I added that to it as well because I wanted them to have a scene where they actually hear something. So every scene in the game has some sort of soundtrack type music to it. So it works out really well. We'll go back to the track 1 here, and just double check to make sure I hit on everything in this that I needed to. So the biggest thing for me fixing was those barriers around the track so that the player can't just go off and do whatever they want. That and some of the areas where the people got stuck. I'm still having an issue with the respawn for the player. The thing with the respawn for the player is how it works is there's 2 different versions of it. There's the version that happens when you fall over the edge of a bridge and you collide with my dead zone down here. If you collide with that, then you automatically respawn at one of the checkpoints, whatever the previous checkpoint was that you actually came in contact with. Now, the way it's set up, unfortunately, I can't, where is it? I want to make sure I show you the script as well. So, let me, camera shake, dead zone, well, that's got to be in scripts. Checkpoints, here we go. So, in here, of course it's going to stop working. Sorry about that. Let me go back in and reopen. It should open all of them back up pretty smoothly though, thankfully. Alright, so here we go. In checkpoints, how it works is I'm saying that my player tag of getComponentPlayer for checkpoints, which is referencing this script here, and the check pause thing, which is, again, this here, it's a vector3, will equal my transform.position if I collide with that barrier. Now, unfortunately, that's the only thing that I found to work, and the biggest problem with that is I tried to utilize Quaternion to save the rotation as well, but since it's a vector3, it's not functioning the way it's supposed to. It wasn't taking it properly. I've looked at a bunch of things about converting vector3s to Quaternion. I've done the Quaternion identify and added my specific XYZ to it, but it still was not working. So unfortunately, all it is saving is the exact position that that checkpoint was at. You go through that checkpoint, the player will respawn back at that exact same spot, but they will be facing whatever way that they were facing when they went through that death zone. So if it happened to be faced going the opposite direction of the way they're supposed to go on the track, then when they respawn, they will be facing the wrong way on that track. I've tried looking into ways to indicate to the player, that they're going the wrong way. Kind of hitting a minor roadblock with that as well right now, but something I'm kind of working through. I went as far as to pre-stage planes on the field here. I used to have one here where the mouse cursor is that just said you're going the wrong way. You wouldn't see it if you were coming down this way, but if you're coming up this way, you see it. But that isn't really feasible to have a bunch of those on the track. So I'm trying to find a different method to make it work so that it will at least indicate to the player, hey, you're going the wrong way. Now, literally the death zone, all it's doing is it's saying, like I said here, it's going to say, okay, player.transform.position, if they hit that collider, then their transform position is going to equal whatever was saved in check pause, which is in here. Whatever was saved here, which was initially saved in here. So that is why it's doing that. Now, the other thing that I spoke about was the other actual type of respawn, and that's when you are on the motorcycle and you wreck into a wall or you wreck into an object and the player actually turns into a ragdoll, falls off, and then after a short time resets back on the bike. The thing with that is that one was set up automatically for me with the bike control and bike animation scripts. That's another thing that I'm looking into on a way to kind of fix that, but it's flat out how it's working is wherever the motorcycle lands, whatever way the motorcycle is facing, that's the way the player is going to respawn back on that bike. So if you ragdoll from, like, you hit something here where the mouse is, and then you ragdoll somehow and you end up over here, but your bike ends up right here and it's facing this way. That's how you're going to respawn, is facing that way, and you'll continue going the wrong way. So another thing that I'm trying to figure out how to get to function properly, but the issue I run into is I can't just give it a specific x coordinate, because the x rotation is going to be, and it's anything dependent on where you are on the track. You know, going this way it could be 90 degrees, but then the second you get here it turns to 140, we'll say, you know. So I can't just give it a hard value. So those are a few things that I'm kind of currently looking into, trying to find a different way to get it to work. But I think that the respawning and facing a specific way is less of a big deal as making sure that he actually does respawn. If I have to go through and add those planes all over and just have them spaced out 10 feet apart or 10 meters apart to indicate to the player, hey, just so you know, you're going the wrong way, then that's what I'll have to do. That's something that's easy to do. It's just not as feasible, I don't think. So, but yep, this is the game. These are the fixes that I've done. So hope you enjoyed the video and have a good one.